start by telling my younger self to remind my parents that I'm speaking at Baccalaureate tonight. Surprise them. On a more serious note, high school has brought me the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Through sports, academics, relationships, and an abundance of extracurriculars, I can confidently say that I've had my fair share of the high school experience. When I look back on my journey, I can see spiritual growth, emotional growth, and physical growth. Going into my freshman year, if you would have asked me to describe myself, I would have told you I'm a soccer player. At that point, I had been playing soccer for 10 years. It was simply a part of my daily routine. Soccer had quickly become all that I was and what I put my identity in. Looking back on my life, I can now understand that I only thought of myself within the realm of soccer. If I had played an amazing game, I thought I was a great friend, player, and teammate. On the contrary, if I failed to perform to my full capability, I thought of myself as a horrible player, a bad friend, and an even worse teammate. In the final game of my sophomore year, I tried to slide tackle to block a shot, but ended up tearing my lateral meniscus in the worst way possible. I was out for 8 months and had to sit out for my club season in the fall. To say I was devastated is an understatement. For those of you who have ever had to watch your own team play without you, regardless of the sport, you know the exact feeling that I'm talking about: lost. To be completely transparent, I began to blame God for what happened to me. With the long 8 months of free time away from soccer, God had opened up my eyes to his fruitful intentions. He showed me a glimpse of the purpose behind his plan for my life. By the end of the 8 months, I had made a full recovery just in time for the high school season. I tell you all my testimony tonight, not because I love speaking in front of people or hearing myself talk. Trust me, that is not the case. I tell you all this in hopes that it touches one of your hearts and opens up your eyes to God's unconditional love. When I was solely focused on my own personal performance, I had lost sight of the ability to play the game in the first place. Christ set aside what I was putting my identity in just for a brief period. He paused what was distracting me so I could learn to put my identity in it. Don't take this message the wrong way. I still love playing pickup, club, high school, and soon intramural soccer. That hasn't changed. What has changed is my perspective of why I play and who I play for. God fixed my eyes to see him and to know him. So to stand before my younger self would be to tell her that I'm not defined by soccer, friends, family, or even grades. My worth comes from the Lord, as for everyone in this room tonight. If you leave here with anything, let it be this: don't let this sinful world convince you that you're only defined by what you indulge in. God has handcrafted each of us into his perfect and everlasting image. Our identity comes from the Father, and the Father only. I believe that Moses in Genesis 1:27 said it best. So God made mankind in his image. In the image of mankind he created them. Male and female he created them. We are not something because what we have done. We are something because we are in Christ. Thank you.
When I think about the question, what would I tell my younger self, the first thing that comes to mind is what would I change? There are countless memories I can recall throughout my life that I would love to be able to go back and prevent. Nobody wants to experience heartbreak, embarrassment, or loss on any scale, but those are things we have endured all our lives. Do you remember begging your dad to let you eat ice cream before dinner just for him to shatter your 7-year-old heart and say no? Or when the ground was covered in snow and your mom forced you to wear your big fluffy coat to school? At the time, I would have done anything to change those circumstances. I was convinced that my parents were trying to ruin my life. But as I had grown older, I realized that was not the case. They had no intentions but to protect me and to do what was best for me. So, instead of wishing I could change these moments, I need to recognize that everything played out the way it did for a reason. My parents saw the bigger picture when all I saw was the momentary struggle. This perspective still hinders many of us from fully enjoying our lives. Knowing that everything happens the way God intended it to allows us to trust God in all things, and that is what really frees us to live our best life possible. In the moment, things don't make sense, but later down the road, you'll be able to look back and see God's hand in everything. I can now look back and understand why my parents did not let me eat ice cream before dinner, or why I had to wear my coat to school. But simple things like that are much easier to trust will work out than life-altering struggles. The COVID-19 pandemic affected all of us. Millions of lives were lost, and millions of other lives were changed forever. I can remember being so angry that I could not go back to school to see my friends, and being so sad hearing about the deadly impact it was having on the world. I, as I'm sure many of you also, asked God repeatedly why this was happening. It It felt like life would never go back to normal, and we would all be isolated and lonely forever. In that moment, it seemed hopeless. But now, when I look back, the bigger picture is starting to become more evident. Maybe God used that tragedy as a way to bring his people together. We didn't appreciate the face-to-face interactions and relationships we got to have before nearly as much as we do now. God can use widespread tragedies like COVID or tornadoes to bring his people together. But when the struggle is only affecting you, it can be harder to see the purpose. Whether it be losing a job, being betrayed, or getting injured, personal hardships can feel very lonely and hopeless. But God always has a purpose behind any type of pain. You lose your job, but a few weeks later, you get a new job that pays better and you enjoy more. Or you get injured playing your sport, but the recovery time gives you more time to focus on God. These things all seem terrible at the time, but God has authority over all situations and will work every struggle and conflict out according to his plan. Looking back on the things you thought you would never get over and now are some of the biggest blessings in your life is so rewarding. There are still things in my life that I don't know why they happened. Why did my basketball team have to lose in the state championship after the countless hours we dedicated and sacrifices we made? Or, a much harder one to accept, why do people we love have to die? It's not fair. Life is full of heartbreak and disappointment. But one thing I've learned is that sometimes you have to stop seeking understanding and start seeking God. Though it is relieving to be able to see the reason for what has happened, trusting that God will work your current situation out will bring you so much peace. Peace that you can only receive from God. So, what would I tell my younger self? I would tell her not to change a thing. Every challenge, victory, and heartache you face will lead to something greater. If you can shift your perspective from why is this happening to me to I can't wait to see what comes out of this, life will be so much more enjoyable. Circumstances don't determine who you are. What God says about you does. Through the highs and lows, God has a plan. Live each day trusting him. In John 14:1, Jesus says, "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me." As we go into this next chapter of our lives, this outlook should remain the same. Whether you're moving away for college, entering the workforce, joining the military, or even staying home, your life is going to change. Our childhood is coming to an end, and our adult lives are about to begin, and there is nothing that we can do to change that. So, instead of feeling frightened for what is to come, we should be excited for what the future has in store. Wherever you are and whatever you are doing, God has you there for a purpose. All we have to do is trust him. Thank you.
The song "Dear Younger Me, My Mercy Me" speaks of the wisdom and insights we gain as we journey through life, and it prompts us to consider what advice we would give to our younger selves if given a chance. Reflecting back on my high school experience, I've compiled 3 things I would want to tell her. Dear younger Isabel, throughout the next 4 years of high school, life will change for you in so many ways. Your journey will be marked by growth, challenges, and countless memories that will shape you into the individual that stands here today. Upon facing more than a fair share of high school tribulations, you will lose friends, give up lifelong passions, and watch your dream future dissipate. It may seem dark, and that's because it will be. One verse in particular that will resonate with you as a testament throughout your high school experience is Matthew 5:10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Although it will feel seemingly impossible to imagine a life without the people and fixations that you hold so closely to your heart now, know that when there comes a time that you find yourself clutching so tightly to only memories of how it used to be, it's okay to let go. Even more so to let go in the face of unknownness. Many, many years ago, Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. Peter refused as he believed Jesus should never wash the feet of a mere sinner like himself. But Jesus' response reads as John chapter 13, verse 7. You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand. Similarly to Peter, it is hard to accept his way when the outcome is not clear. It's hard to wait and trust what we cannot see. But one of the greatest rewards comes from putting your trust in the Lord and letting him do the rest, because his ways are always higher. In a season I didn't expect, God was doing the unexpected. And although my story seems like a bearer of bad news, it's not. It's actually the story God wrote to change my life for the better. I can stand here now and tell you about the new friendships that flourished, the new passions that have burned stronger, and the brighter future that now lies ahead of me. The truth is, you're going to want the hard things to stop, because there's nothing easy about it. But in the end, you will be thankful for all the darkness, because it will bless you with a relationship with God that is greater than any friend on earth, any medal in sports, any grade in school, and all the hardships you will face combined. And for future Isabel, remember who He has made you to be and why. With the changing of your interests, goals, and dreams over time, embrace the evolution with an open heart and a willingness to explore new horizons and paths. Remember that life is a journey of constant growth and discovery, and that it's okay to outgrow the things that once defined you. Figuring out who God has made you to be is no easy task. But remember that when you do, stay true to yourself, because people are not always who they say they are, and you are not who others say you are. Thank you.